I called Carlos Alcaraz greedy after he beat Alexander Zverev in that epic 5.5 hour semifinal because he just cannot help winning instant classic 5-set matches nowadays. But he took that greed to a whole other level today. He was already the youngest man to reach world number 1, the youngest to win majors on all 3 different surfaces, and now with this Australian Open Finals win over Novak Djokovic, he's the youngest to achieve the career slam at just 22 years old.
Carlos Alcaraz just became the youngest man ever to complete a career Grand Slam, and he did it by beating Novak Djokovic in the Australian Open final. At 22 years old, he's now in the same exclusive club as the Big Three, except he got there way faster than any of them. Djokovic's quest for that record-breaking 25th slam just got shut down by a kid. Is Carlos Alcaraz officially the future of tennis? Or are we getting ahead of ourselves with the GOAT comparisons already?
Alcaraz conquers Australia.
So Carlos Alcaraz just made tennis history, and Novak Djokovic had to watch it happen right in front of him. The Australian Open final ended 2-6, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5 in favor of the 22-year-old Spaniard, which means Alcaraz now has all 4 Grand Slam titles in his trophy cabinet. Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon, US Open. He's got the full set at an age when most players are still trying to win their first major. Let's put this in perspective. Alcaraz is now the youngest man in the Open era to complete the career Grand Slam. Younger than Nadal, who was 24. Younger than Federer, who was 27. And younger than Djokovic himself, who was 29 when he finally completed the set. So the guy Alcaraz just beat in the final took 7 more years to accomplish what the kid just did. That's gotta sting a little bit.
You know, I don't think we could possibly overemphasize what Carlos Alcaraz has just achieved at the Australian Open, winning his first ever major title down under, and it means he completes the set, the career Grand Slam, all 4 majors, and he's done it at the age of just 22, the youngest player ever to do so. And whatever happened in this final, it was going to be historic. Djokovic was hoping to become, at the age of 38, the oldest ever player to win a major singles title. And if he did so, he would have had 25 Grand Slam singles titles to his name. That would have been a new record. But instead, it's Alcaraz who takes all the plaudits. And consider this. Alcaraz now has 7 major titles to his name. That is more than Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer had when they were the same age. And so this guy's already a legend, but he's only just getting started.
He's also the youngest man in the Open era to win 7 Grand Slam titles, breaking the record previously held by Bjorn Borg. So we're not just talking about one record here. Alcaraz is out here collecting historic achievements like their Pokemon cards. At 22. Most people that age are still figuring out how to file taxes, and this guy is rewriting tennis history books. The match itself was pretty wild. Djokovic came out absolutely guns blazing in the first set. He was laser-focused on getting that 25th Grand Slam title that would put him ahead of Margaret Court and make him the most decorated tennis player in history. And for 33 minutes, it looked like he might actually pull it off. He dominated that first set 6-2, serving accurately and hitting powerful shots that Alcaraz couldn't handle.
How good is this final already?
But here's the thing about Alcaraz. The kid doesn't quit. After getting demolished in the first set, he could have folded. Djokovic is a 10-time Australian Open champion who had never lost a final in Melbourne before this match. The pressure was massive. The expectations were huge, and Alcaraz had just played a brutal 5-set semifinal against Alexander Zverev on Friday, during which he dealt with cramps and physical struggles. Then something shifted in the third game of the second set. Alcaraz hit a forehand winner that clipped the net cord and dropped perfectly beyond Djokovic's reach. One of those lucky shots that just happens sometimes. Djokovic followed that up with an unforced error off his forehand, and suddenly Alcaraz had 2 breakpoints. He converted on the first one, and just like that, the momentum completely flipped. From that moment on, it was Alcaraz's match to lose. He consolidated the break immediately and cruised through the second set with relative ease. The kid who got destroyed 6-2 in the opening set suddenly looked like he was in complete control. Meanwhile, Djokovic started making uncharacteristic, unforced errors, which is not something you see from him very often. The third set went to Alcaraz, and then the fourth set became an absolute battle. Djokovic wasn't going down without a fight. There was this insane 12-minute game at the start of the fourth set where Alcaraz had 6 breakpoints and Djokovic somehow managed to save all of them. When he finally held serve, Djokovic celebrated with a wry smile and a fist pump to the crowd. It was such a massive hold that even he seemed surprised he pulled it off. But that was basically Djokovic's last stand. Despite that heroic hold, he faltered when it mattered most. Serving to stay in the match, he gave Alcaraz 2 championship points before firing a forehand, long while trying to go on offense. Game, set, match, and history for Carlos Alcaraz.
Carlos Alcaraz rewrites the tennis history books in Melbourne. He becomes the youngest man ever to complete the set of majors. Just the 9th in the history of this sport.
The age factor here is absolutely crucial. Djokovic is 38 years old. He just played a 5-set semifinal against Jannik Sinner on Friday, which means he had to dig incredibly deep just to make the final. Then he had to face a 22-year-old athletic freak who can return almost every shot, extend rallies beyond what seems humanly possible, and hit creative shots that catch even veterans by surprise. This is the reality of Djokovic's situation now. He's facing the continuing dominance of both Sinner and Alcaraz, and he's running out of opportunities to win that 25th Grand Slam title. He hasn't won a major since the 2023 US Open, which in Djokovic terms is basically a drought. For a guy who's won 24 Grand Slams, going more than a year without winning one probably feels like torture. The cruel irony is that Djokovic is still good enough to reach Grand Slam finals. He's still beating top players. He's still competing at the highest level. But when it comes down to it, he's getting beaten by younger guys who simply have more in the tank physically. And that's got to be frustrating beyond belief. After the match, Alcaraz gave this really nice speech where he paid tribute to his team, Djokovic, and even Rafael Nadal, who was watching from the stands. He talked about how hard he's worked to get this trophy, how emotional he was during the preseason, and how his team ignored all the noise from people doubting them after he split with his longtime coach Juan Carlos Ferrero 6 weeks ago. That coaching change is actually a pretty big deal that got glossed over. Alcaraz parted ways with Ferrero just 6 weeks before the Australian Open, and people were questioning whether that was smart timing. Turns out it worked out pretty well. He just won the Australian Open and completed a career Grand Slam. So yeah, maybe the critics should shut up now. Djokovic's post-match comments were classy but also kind of depressing if you read between the lines. He congratulated Alcaraz and called his achievements historic and legendary. Then he joked about how they'd probably be seeing a lot of each other over the next 10 years. It's funny, but it's also Djokovic acknowledging that his time is running out. He's not going to be competing for Grand Slams in 10 years, probably not even in 5 years. The exclusive club that Alcaraz just joined only has 6 members in the Open era. Rod Laver, Andre Agassi, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and now Carlos Alcaraz. That's it. 6 guys out of thousands of professional tennis players have managed to win all 4 majors, and Alcaraz did it faster than any of them. What makes this even more impressive is the context of modern tennis. Alcaraz isn't just beating random players to win these Grand Slams. He's beating Djokovic in finals. He's going through guys like Zverev and Sinner just to reach finals. The level of competition right now is absurdly high, and he's still making it look relatively easy. The drop shot that Alcaraz was using to lethal effect in this match is kind of his signature move at this point. Djokovic knows it's coming. Everyone knows it's coming. And somehow Alcaraz still gets away with it because his execution is that good. When you can use a shot that your opponent knows is coming and still make it work, that's elite-level tennis. Djokovic's unforced errors in this match were surprising because he's usually so solid. But that's what happens when you're 38 and you've just played a 5-set war with Sinner 2 days earlier. The tank is empty, and the younger guy is going to exploit that. Alcaraz was the fresher player physically, and it showed in the later sets. The stat about Djokovic never losing an Australian Open final before this match is absolutely wild. He'd been to 10 finals in Melbourne and won all 10 before Alcaraz showed up and ruined the perfect record. That's gotta hurt. Losing your first Australian Open final ever to a 22-year-old who just completed a career Grand Slam at your expense? That's rough. The fact that both players dealt with 5-set semifinals on Friday actually levels the playing field a bit. Neither guy had maximum rest. Both had to dig deep to reach the final. But Alcaraz is 16 years younger, and that age gap matters enormously when you're talking about recovery and physical endurance. Nadal being in the stands watching his fellow Spaniard make history is poetic. Nadal retired recently, and now Alcaraz is carrying the Spanish tennis torch. Winning a career Grand Slam at 22 puts him on a trajectory that could potentially surpass even Nadal's achievements if he stays healthy and maintains this level of play. The 7 Grand Slam titles at 22 is absurd. Djokovic has 24, Nadal retired with 22, and Federer retired with 20. If Alcaraz keeps winning at this pace, he could legitimately challenge those totals. Of course, staying healthy and maintaining motivation over a 15 to 20-year career is incredibly difficult, but the trajectory is there. Alcaraz's athleticism is what sets him apart from most players. The way he can chase down balls that seem impossible to reach. The way he extends rallies beyond what seems reasonable. That's not just skill, that's physical gifts combined with incredible court coverage. And at 22, his body can still handle that kind of punishment. Djokovic at 38 simply cannot move like that anymore. The coaching situation deserves more attention. Splitting with Ferrero 6 weeks before a Grand Slam, and then immediately winning that Grand Slam and completing a career set is insane. Either the split motivated Alcaraz to prove doubters wrong, or Ferrero was somehow holding him back, or the timing was just coincidentally perfect. Regardless, it worked out phenomenally. Djokovic's pursuit of that 25th Grand Slam is starting to look like it might not happen. He's still capable of reaching finals, but actually winning them against guys like Alcaraz and Sinner is becoming increasingly difficult. The window is closing, and every loss makes the next opportunity more precious and more pressure-packed. The celebration from Alcaraz after match point was pure emotion. He collapsed to the ground, overwhelmed by what he'd just accomplished. That's a 22-year-old processing the fact that he just made tennis history. He's now in the same conversation as the greatest players ever, and he got there faster than any of them. Djokovic's joke about seeing Alcaraz over the next 10 years was funny but also sad. He's acknowledging his mortality as a player. He knows his time is limited. Meanwhile, Alcaraz is just getting started. The changing of the guard is happening right before our eyes, and Djokovic is self-aware enough to recognize it. The match quality was excellent despite the score looking somewhat one-sided. That 12-minute game in the 4th set was peak tennis drama. 6 breakpoints saved by Djokovic through sheer willpower and experience. But ultimately, saving breakpoints in one game doesn't win you the match, and Alcaraz proved that by breaking him when it mattered most. Alcaraz becoming world number 1 alongside his Australian Open title is the cherry on top. He's not just completing a career Grand Slam. He's doing it while ranked as the best player in the world. That's undisputed dominance. There's no debate about whether he deserves it or got lucky. He's clearly the best player on the planet right now. The future of men's tennis is Alcaraz and Sinner, with Djokovic fading into the background. That's not disrespectful to Djokovic. It's just reality. He's 38 and running out of time. The young guys are taking over, and Alcaraz just announced himself as the leader of the new generation by completing a career Grand Slam at 22. Carlos Alcaraz just rewrote tennis history at 22 years old while Djokovic watched his 25th Grand Slam dream die. The changing of the guard is complete, and it happened faster than anyone expected. If you think Alcaraz is the real deal, or if you're still holding out hope for Djokovic's 25th, drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button and subscribe for more tennis coverage.